It was to be a routine custody hearing, nothing unusual. But as soon as the DNA test results landed on the judge's desk, the whole thing started to unravel. Robin's well-ordered world began to break apart in slow motion. And when they revealed the truth about Ariella, the courtroom didn't gasp in shock. It gasped in horror. What does the woman who swore she was doing it for her children do when she's caught hiding someone else's? Before we continue, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe Robin knew all along, or was she simply caught up in Cody's sinister game? They claim the courtroom is a locked box that preserves the truth. But that Flagstaff morning the box creaked apart, and what poured out scalded everyone it touched. Mary sat by herself on the left bench, her hands clenched around a scrunched tissue. She hadn't heard from Robin in weeks, not since she stormed out of the family meeting and told her, "If you lie about a child, you'll lie about anything." The soft hum of the lights was all that filled the room. Janelle turned pages of paperwork Mary had submitted. A DNA petition that was bold, dangerous, and potentially catastrophic. Robin wasn't there yet, but her attorney was already seated. A stiff guy in a gray pinstripe suit who wouldn't look anyone in the eye. His briefcase had confidential stamped on it. He set it down on the defense table with a loud clunk. The door opened at 9:02 a.m. Robin Brown entered, pale and shuddering. Her eyes didn't meet anyone's. Not Mary's, not the judge's, and certainly not Cody's. Cody sat back of her, arms folded, jaw clenched, rocking back and forth in the manner of a person who'd been busted in a fib and couldn't remain seated. He hadn't spoken to Mary since the filing. Robin sank into her chair, as if her body had momentarily forgotten how to support its weight. In her purse she reached under the table and gripped a necklace. "Wells." The judge proceeded without hesitation. "We are here on the matter of the legal guardianship and birth certificate of the minor named Ariella Mae Brown," he stated. "The court has received DNA test results ordered by Mrs. Mary Brown and corroborated by third-party affirmations." Robin leaned forward to her attorney and whispered something, but he did not react. He gazed directly ahead of him, not budging. There was complete silence in the room with only the occasional rustling of fabric and nervous breaths. Everyone could sense it, something was going to give. Christine sat in the third row, looking serene but inscrutable. She took Janelle's hand, a small show of solidarity. The judge went on, "The petitioner asserts that Miss Robin Brown forged parentage documents and perjured herself in numerous filings. Documentary evidence submitted includes discharge records from the hospital, a signed affidavit, and a verified DNA test." A gasp spread through the gallery. Someone softly said, "Oh my God." Mary remained frozen, her expression strained, eyes on the judge. The judge removed the sealed envelope. "This court is ready to enter the test results into the record," he declared. "But first, Miss Brown, do you have anything to say?" Robin's lips were trembling. For a very long time she didn't speak. Then she glanced at Cody. His face was hard and unexpressive. At last, her voice broke into the silence. "She's mine," she said in a barely audible whisper. "That's all I'm going to say. She's my daughter." The judge's voice grew cold. "Miss Brown, if this court determines otherwise, your testimony might be considered perjury." "Are you sure?" Robin's eyes welled up with tears, but she nodded. The judge opened the envelope. According to genetic testing conducted by 2 separate laboratories, he read, "The child called Ariella Mae Brown is not Miss Robin Brown's biological child. Probability of maternity 0%. The courtroom was still. No one said a word. It wasn't shock that hung in the air, it was terror. Because everyone knew Robin hadn't just lied. She knew. Janelle went pale. Christine let her pen fall. Cody sprang to his feet. "There's a mistake," he bellowed. "There has to be a mistake." But the judge held up a hand. "Sit down, Mr. Brown. This court is not here to argue. We are here to find out what really happened." Robin covered her face in her hands and started crying. Nobody came to console her, not even Cody. Lies don't fall apart suddenly. They fall into pieces bit by bit until the one who spoke them is overwhelmed by their own weight. Then Mary stood. Her voice shook, but she didn't falter. "I'd like to submit this to the court," she said, pulling a folded piece of paper from her purse. The bailiff carried it to the judge. "This is a copy of the original hospital wristband given to Ariella after birth," she explained. It matches a different mother's name, not Robin's. Gasps rippled once more. The judge spread out the paper and read from it, Mother Melanie R. Williams. Not Robin. Not even close. That was the turning point. The judge's face was unreadable. We'll have a 10-minute recess, he said. When we come back, we will subpoena the nurse who was present at the birth. Robin's face turned white. She knew whom that nurse was, and what she had seen. What was Robin keeping secret all along? And why did Cody immediately come to her defense? Tell us your theory in the comments. When recess was over, the courtroom was different. The whispers were forgotten, and a thick, crushing tension filled the air. Robin hadn't budged the whole break. Her makeup was smudged on her face. Her body coiled in on itself as if she was preparing for an impact. Cody, by contrast, paced small circles, muttering furiously to Robin's attorney. At one moment, he pounded his hand on the table, and his water bottle flew off. The bailiff didn't flinch. It wasn't the first time someone lost it in this courtroom, but it was the first time it was over a child who was never their own to own. All rise, the clerk announced. Judge Remington returned, calm but sharp-eyed. And as he took his seat, everyone in that room knew. The next words out of his mouth were going to change everything. The judge leaned back slightly, his expression calm but sharp. He had been doing this long enough to spot the truth before it was ever spoken. We'll resume with the next witness, he said. Please call Nurse Sharon Mills to the stand. All the heads in the gallery swiveled as a woman in her late 50s came through the side door. She still wore her hospital badge clipped to her cardigan. Her eyes were firm but wary. She wasn't here to protect anyone. She was here for the truth. Once she had sworn the oath, she sat down, rested her hands in her lap, and waited. Miss Mills, the judge started, you worked at Flagstaff Medical Center in April of 2016, is that right? Yes, sir, she said. I worked as a labor and delivery nurse there for nearly 30 years. Did you witness the birth of a child named Ariella Mae Brown? She nodded cautiously. Yes, I did. The judge's voice didn't waver. Was Robin Brown the mother of that child? Nurse Mills hesitated. She stared straight at Robin, then at the judge. No, she was not. The words stung harder than anyone could have anticipated. Gasps echoed across the courtroom, louder this time. The truth always hurt more when it came from a stranger. The judge leaned forward a fraction of an inch. Then who was? There was a woman named Melanie Williams, the nurse spoke softly. She came in as an emergency walk-in. No insurance. She told us she wasn't keeping the baby. Did she say that she was giving the child up for adoption? Not quite, said Nurse Mills, looking down at her records. She was taken to a different wing for medical observation after she delivered. The baby, though, was taken by a gentleman with paperwork. He said he had legal custody and was there for the transfer. Christine took a sharp breath in the gallery. Transfer, she whispered. Janelle blinked hard. Like a trade, she said under her breath. Not a birth. Robin had her face in her hands as her attorney whispered urgently at her side. She only shook her head repeatedly as if not to listen. The judge raised his voice again. This man who kidnapped the child, did you know him? The room fell silent. Nurse Mills nodded. Yes. He arrived with Robin Brown. She wouldn't speak to us. She waited outside the nursery while he did all the paperwork. The judge's voice grew harder. Can you pick him out today? Yes, she said. She turned, moving slowly, and pointed. That man, Cody Brown. Air was evacuated from the room. Cody leapt to his feet. Objection. That's not legal. That's not adoption procedure. Sit down, Mr. Brown, the judge instructed. But Cody refused to. She's lying. That nurse is lying. We adopted Ariella legally. Robin filled out the papers. She's the mother. This is a witch hunt. Mary stood quietly. She didn't shout. Her voice cut through the chaos like a blade. I was there, Cody, she said. I saw the envelope in your office 2 years ago. That wasn't an adoption form. It was a payoff. The room froze. Christine whispered. What envelope? Janelle's face went pale. She's about to drop it, she murmured. Mary stepped forward. Your Honor, she said, holding a sealed manila envelope in both hands. I have an affidavit signed by Melanie Williams, dated 2 years ago, notarized and kept in my possession since then. The judge nodded to the bailiff. Mary went on, it says she was paid $120,000 cash to vanish. She never signed over any adoption. She was informed the baby would be given to a needy family, but she was not informed that it would be a TV family. And she was informed the child would never even know who her real mother was. A choked sob escaped Robin's chair. She was white as a sheet. The judge read the affidavit, verifying the notary stamp and date, and then gazed up. Miss Brown, he said, you are charged not just with perjury, but with devising a false custody takeover of a child. Do you wish to respond? Robin's voice was reedy and fractured. I didn't know. Not the whole story. Cody told me it was legal. He said everything was done. I didn't even see Melanie until weeks later. Cody snorted behind her. Don't do this now, Robin. She spun around to face him, eyes brimming with tears and indignation. You drew me into this. You said it was just forms. You said she didn't want her. The judge rapped his gavel. That's it. This is a court of law, not a domestic dispute. But it was too late. Robin had spoken enough to make it evident. Cody had masterminded it all. And if Melanie had never relinquished her parental rights, that made Robin not Ariella's legal guardian. It made the birth certificate a sham. It made the child they insisted was not legally theirs. Christine leaned over toward Janelle, speaking in hushed tones. That's felony-level identity theft. If Mary's affidavit stands, Robin's going to be charged, and so is Cody. The judge faced Nurse Mills again. One last question, he said. Did Melanie Williams ever come back to the hospital? Nurse Mills paused. She phoned once 6 months later. She wanted to know about the baby. I had to inform her we couldn't provide any information. Thank you, Miss Mills. You may go down. She made her way off the stand slowly, the heavy tread of a woman who had just uncovered a 6-year-old secret. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was a storm waiting to break. The judge sighed. This court will recess for lunch and meet again at 2 p.m. At that time, we will hear from the notary who authorized the affidavit and decide if criminal charges are to be considered. Everyone rose. Everyone but Robin. She sat still whispering, she's mine. She's mine. She's mine. Cody left without glancing back. Mary remained sitting, raised her chin, and spoke just loudly enough for the closest microphone to pick up. Not anymore. If a lie gets old enough, it begins thinking it's true, until someone comes along with the receipt. What Robin did not realize was that the next witness, the notary, had something to say for herself. And it wasn't about a signature. It was about the time Robin paid her cash and told her, don't ask who the mother is. When the courtroom reconvened, the mood had changed. Earlier there had been shock and bewilderment. Now there was something else. A throb in the air, as if justice itself was seeping out of the walls, insisting to be heard. Robin sat rigid and white, her eyes bloodshot from crying. She no longer attempted to hide. She grasped a paper that was shredded in her hand. Cody had retreated several feet from her, maintaining his distance, as if distance could eliminate shame. But it was too late. All rise, the clerk shouted. Judge Remington emerged again, once glancing toward Mary, once toward Robin, and then straight ahead. We will hear from the next witness now, he stated, his tone firm and unmoving. And at that instant everybody knew the truth was not yet finished. The next witness was ushered into the witness stand. Janessa Moore, the notary public who signed off on the affidavit submitted by Mary earlier. The door opened, and a woman in her 40s entered. She was tidy, calm, but her hands gripped her leather bag hard, as if she required it for balance. Her name, Janessa Moore, was the one signed at the bottom of Melanie Williams' affidavit. She was sworn, cleared her throat, and sat. Miss Moore, the judge asked, you notarized a statement by a woman called Melanie Williams 2 years ago. Is that right? Yes, Your Honor. And where did this notarization take place? Janessa hesitated. In a private room at the Flagstaff Public Library. And who requested your presence there? There was another pause. Then she said, Robin Brown. A sharp gasp cut through the room. For the first time the direct link had been made, not Cody, not a lawyer, but Robin herself. Janessa went on in a soft voice. She called me via a private notary listing that I keep online. She said she was doing a quick signing, that she was assisting a friend in completing an older guardianship. The judge nodded. Was Miss Williams present and coherent when the signing took place? She was, Janessa replied, her tone lowering. But she was nervous. She did not ask questions. It was like she had been coached. The judge leaned in. Coached? Janessa clutched the corner of the stand. She kept looking at Robin, as if she required her approval to respond to anything. She wept twice when I asked whether she knew what she was signing. Robin jumped in and said, "We already discussed everything. She's just upset." A whispered sound came out of Robin's mouth, half whimper, half sob. At the far end of the room, Christine and Janelle sat up straight, their breath caught. This was no longer paperwork. This was control. Pressure. Manipulation. The judge inquired, "Did you see any money exchanged during or following the signing?" Janessa swallowed. "Yes." Then Robin produced a white envelope from her bag and gave it to Melanie. I wasn't ever meant to know what was in it, but Melanie had dropped it. It opened on the floor. It was money. How much? Janessa shook her head. At least 10,000, maybe more. I only caught a glimpse of the top bills. At that point Robin snapped. Her whole body slumped forward and she shrieked. The noise stunned everyone into silence. She said it was legal. She wailed. She said she didn't want her. She said she couldn't have a baby and I would make a better mother. "Miss Brown," the judge sternly barked, "collect yourself." Robin cried harder. "I loved her. I didn't do it for money. I didn't forge anything. I just wanted her." No one stirred. No one reassured her. Over in the corner of the room, Mary averted her face, like onlooker watching an individual grieve for the termination of a fib they'd repeated too many times. When someone collapses under the burden of the truth, it's not the yelling that lingers with you. It's the silence afterwards. "Miss Moore," said the judge softly, "why have you come forward now?" Janessa's voice was shaky. "Because I've seen this family on TV. I've seen that child's face. And for 2 years I've lived with the guilt. I notarized a falsehood. I did not enough questioning." Christine whispered, "She's not alone." Janelle's voice was stronger. They all assisted Robin in the creation of a story that never was hers. "Thank you, Miss Moore," the judge replied. "You may be seated." Janessa dipped her head again, this time in her chair. Her quiet confession had been devastating, and now it was on the record. The judge took a slow breath. "This court will now proceed to decide the legality of the custody of Ariella, May Brown, and whether criminal conduct by the defendants has occurred." Robin's head jerked up. "No, please. Don't take her away from me. She's my baby. She calls me Mom. She doesn't know anyone else. You can't do this to her." Her words shattered the courtroom silence, but the judge did not relent. "Maternity is not established by love alone, Miss Brown. It is established by truth and by law. You knew this day could arrive when you constructed her life upon a falsehood." Robin's sobs resounded once more, and just as the room was starting to calm down, a voice from the rear. "Excuse me, Your Honor." All eyes turned. A young woman stood in the back, cradling something in her arms. She was barely in her 20s, tremulous, pale, and unusually familiar. The judge scowled. "Who are you?" "My name is Savannah," she whispered. "Savannah Williams. Melanie's little sister." A crack of stress broke across the room. Christine breathed. "Oh my God, she sent her here." Savannah went on, her voice trembling. "She knew this would happen. She's been watching everything play out. And she wanted me to bring you this." She moved forward and handed a small black notebook to the bailiff, who took it to the judge. "It's Melanie's diary," Savannah explained. "It has everything from the week Ariella was born." The judge started to scan the pages, and between gasps before he even reached the end of them. The diary was packed with names, dates, notes, feelings, everything. One line leapt off the page in the handwriting that slanted across it between words. "No one will ever know that I was just a vessel, that she needed a daughter to keep her marriage alive." Christine covered her lips. Janelle got to her feet. "That's Robin," she said. She was discussing Robin. The judge glared at Robin, his features unyielding. "Miss Brown, you are now not just at risk for loss of custody, but for investigation of falsification, coercion, and custodial fraud." Robin shook. "Do you want to make a final statement prior to deliberating?" She stood in silence for what felt like an eternity. Then between sobs she whispered, "She wasn't supposed to be mine. But I couldn't let her go. And that was all, the statement that would dog her through every trial, every news headline, and every book her daughter would read one day. Outside those courtroom doors, somewhere in the distance, Melanie Williams watched, listened, waited for what would come next. Robin Brown's acting as Ariella's mother had just expired. What would you do if the child you loved was not legally yours, but loved you as if you were everything? By the time the sun had slanted through the courthouse windows in the afternoon, no one could pretend this was a family disagreement anymore. The court was no longer working with emotions, it was faced with felonies. The room had become quiet, heavy with tension. The air seemed heavy too. Cody sat rigid apart from Robin, jaw clenched, eyes shifting. Christine had not moved for minutes. Janelle's hand clamped around her pen so hard it curved. Mary sat frozen, eyes on the bench. She knew what would come next. For the next session wasn't about Robin anymore. Today it was about Cody. Judge Remington cleared his throat. The prosecution will now present Exhibit H, an internal financial report from, and before he could say another word, the room held its collective breath. Everyone knew what that meant. The truth was hardly out. There was hardly time for the courtroom to settle before Judge Remington's voice rang out. Flagstaff First Federal Bank subpoenaed, he declared. This record is of a $120,000 cash withdrawal from an account in the name of Cody W. Brown. The date April 23, 2016. All lies have a footprint. And this one had a gas-soaked money trail. Cody's jaw tightened. That doesn't prove anything, he snapped. I had a construction project that month. I was paying subcontractors. The judge didn't blink. That same day, Melanie Williams received a cash payment in the exact amount. Witnesses have confirmed the envelope. The timeline matches. Cody threw his hands in the air. That doesn't mean it was for her. You're connecting dots that don't. But before he could speak, Christine stood up. Your Honor, she panted. I have something to present. Everyone looked at her. It's a voicemail, she went on. From Cody. I shouldn't have saved it, but I did, and am glad that I did. She produced an antique phone, a burner, clutching it as if it were evidence of wrongdoing. It's the 21st of April, 2 days prior to the transaction. He had no idea I was still tracking the family line. The judge nodded. Play it. Christine led the phone over to the technician. The courtroom fell silent. Then the quiet sound of an old voicemail filled the air. Hi Rob, Cody's voice rang out. Just checking, the cash is going out of the Coyote LLC account. No trace like we discussed. I'll grab it on Friday and meet you at the park. You take care of the notary and see that the girl signs. We cannot mess this up, right? If this ever gets out, it's both of us. The tape ran out. You could have heard a pin drop. Robin's only sound was the muffled sob that cut through the quiet. The judge's expression turned cold. Brown, are you not going to admit that the voice in that recording is yours? Cody remained silent. The judge's voice came again, louder this time. Is that your voice or not? Again, no response. He just sat staring ahead. Christina's voice trembled with outrage. You deceived us all, she accused. You made us think for years that Ariella was your miracle child, when you knew full well what you were doing. And then Mary crossed her tongue. Her voice was soft but biting enough to slice through the air. You said you changed, Cody. That Robin had made you truthful. But that voicemail, that's not truth. That's criminal. Cody snapped. You think you all know me? He yelled. You think you can just sit there and judge me after all I've done for this family? He rose to his feet, pacing, voice increasing in intensity. We were breaking up. Nobody was loyal. Christine abandoned me, Janelle didn't care, and Mary. He gave her a dirty look. Mary ceased being my wife years ago. The judge bashed his gavel. This is not a therapy session, Mr. Brown. Sit down. But Cody did not. He continued to pace. I did what I had to do to protect this family. We needed something, someone to bring us back together. Ariella was that chance. She was supposed to save us. But some things aren't designed to save you. They're designed to expose you. Robin stood up next to him, mascara smeared, voice shaking. You said it was legal, she whispered. You said it was all taken care of. You didn't ask questions, Cody replied. You didn't tell me the truth, she exclaimed. The judge's voice intervened. Sit down. Both of you. They sat. And then Mary stood once more, serene but inscrutable. Your Honor, she said quietly, I have one further document. Even Christina's eyes expanded. Mary walked up to the bench and presented a sealed envelope. It arrived 2 weeks ago from an anonymous sender, she explained. I was about to toss it away, but I didn't. And it confirms everything. The judge opened it. It contained a photocopy of a check, $120,000 from Coyote Brown Family LLC payable to cash. In the memo line were 4 words scribbled. For medical closure. PTWB. No one had any idea what those letters would mean, but the expression on the judge's face was self-explanatory. This wasn't only unethical. It was criminal. Mary went on. I think that check was a silent settlement. Melanie was told to leave town. But someone close to Cody must have thought twice. The judge slowly nodded. We will be issuing a subpoena for the Coyote Brown Family LLC records forthwith. He directed the bailiff. Put both Cody Brown and Robin Brown into temporary court custody pending the end of this hearing. There were gasps in the courtroom. Cody's eyes widened. Wait, what? I haven't even testified yet. Right, the judge said. And if you think you'll be taking the stand without an attorney now, you're more irresponsible than I thought. The bailiffs were swift. Robin didn't struggle. But Cody, he glanced at Christine, at Janelle, at Mary. None of them budged. None of them said a word. This was the moment he stood last among them. And just as the officers closed in, he spoke a sentence that stilled them all. There's an additional name on that LLC. The judge inched closer. Whose name? Cody sneered, bitter and shattered. You'll find out when you draw the papers. She figured she wiped herself out of the records, but I saved the originals. He glared at Robin. Good luck trying to explain that to the judge. And with that, Cody Brown left the courtroom in handcuffs. Smiling. It should have been over. Robin had broken. Cody had been arrested. The deception, the fake documents, the cash, it was all out. But something was still amiss. The atmosphere was thick once more. Because when Cody said another name on that LLC, it wasn't in his own defense. It was to ruin someone else. And when Robin raised her eyes wide with fear, it was plain she already knew who he was talking about. Moments later, a court clerk burst in with a skinny pile of papers, records from the Arizona State Business Registry, secured in record time. The judge flipped through the pages, his face growing darker. Coyote Brown Family LLC, he read. April 12, 2016. 2 signatories. He hesitated. Cody W. Brown. And the room leaned in. Aurora Brown. The gasp was immediate. Aurora, Robin's daughter. Janelle blinked, shocked. She was just 14. Christine spoke in a whisper, that can't be right. That must be a mistake. Mary's voice came softly. That's how they concealed it. They laundered the money through her name. Judge Remington peered up. Is Miss Aurora Brown in court today? No one responded, until a voice from the back called out, Young. I'm here. Aurora's head snapped up, spinning the room to face her. Every head turned. Aurora stood, shaking, holding on to her backpack with shaking hands, her face pale but set. I didn't know what they were doing, she said, voice breaking. I swear I didn't. Robin's eyes widened in horror as she turned to stare at her daughter. The courtroom was unbearably silent. Robin's voice cracked, shaking on the verge of shattering. Aurora, baby, please don't. But Aurora didn't wait. I have to, she stated, her voice trembling but firm. You always said to protect the family. But I didn't realize I was signing documents of ownership for a shell corporation. I believed it was for my college fund. Sometimes the truth isn't spoken by a stranger. Sometimes it's spoken by the voice you never think will rise. Judge Remington gestured for Aurora to step forward. Each step sounded heavier than the last, like her shoes were filled with lead. She reached the witness stand, looked at the Bible, and shook her head. I'll affirm, not swear. The clerk nodded, and Aurora took the oath. Her voice trembled, but her words cut through the silence. I was 14. Cody made me sign 3 papers. It was 2 weeks before Ariella came home. He told me it was just scholarship forms. I didn't ask him. The judge slanted forward. And your mother? Tears filled Aurora's eyes. She was there. She didn't prevent it. Robin shook her head. I didn't know what they were for, I swear. But Aurora spoke over her, voice cracking. You did. You promised it would allow us to keep her safe. You said I could trust you. You said, you're part of this family now. So I trusted you. Christine blotted her mouth with her hands. Janelle leaned in close and whispered, she's been keeping this secret for years. Aurora rubbed her eyes. I was 16 when I received a credit notification in my email. I didn't realize what it was, but it displayed a business account with my name. A week later it was gone. I had no idea there was money or that the baby's mother existed, but I knew something was off. The judge softened his tone. Why now? Aurora hesitated. Because Mary discovered it. She had the courage to stand up. And if I don't tell the truth now, it'll end up like them. Truth like wildfire, particularly when it has been hidden within a child who has been instructed to be silent. The judge slowly nodded. Thank you, Miss Brown. You may step down. As Aurora walked back to her seat, Mary touched her shoulder. A quiet thank you. But the storm wasn't finished yet. Your Honor, Mary said, standing up a third time that day, if I may, I have one final piece of evidence. The judge indicated for her to go on. Mary spread out a single sheet of paper. It's a letter from Melanie Williams. She sent it to me yesterday morning. I didn't open it until recess time. It's to this court. The bailiff passed it to the judge. He opened it gingerly and started to read. His face hardened. It states, he started slowly, I never signed away permanent guardianship. I was threatened. Afterwards, I was diagnosed with a medical condition that rendered me infertile. Ariella was my sole child. I want her back. Gasps filled the air. Robin groaned, no. The judge went on. She also indicates she is going to file an official petition to regain custody. Janelle whispered she wants her back. Christina's voice cracked. She wants Ariella. The judge crumpled the letter. Effective immediately, this court suspends all custody privileges of Robin Brown pending investigation. The child identified as Ariella Mae Brown will be under temporary care until full custody review is made. Robin howled, her voice raw. No, you can't do that. She's my child. I raised her. She doesn't even know Melanie. The bailiff moved forward as Robin struggled to stand but slumped down, weeping uncontrollably. She's my baby, she cried. She's my baby. The judge's gavel fell hard. Cody Brown remains in holding. Robin Brown will be placed under supervised court observation. The sound of the gavel echoed twice, and then from the hallway came another voice. Firm. Clear. Unshaken. I'd like to speak. Every head turned. At the door stood a woman in her early 30s, dark hair, steady eyes. She stepped forward, nervous but resolute. I'm Melanie Williams. The entire courtroom froze. Because the real mother had just walked in, and she was ready to fight. No one moved. Not even the judge. Melanie Williams stood there like a ghost from the past, except this ghost wasn't broken. She was calm, deliberate, and burning with quiet rage. Robin's lips parted. No. Melanie's heels clacked across the floor of the courtroom as she made her way to the bench, her manila folder clasped against her chest. I wasn't supposed to be here, she said. I was supposed to keep my mouth shut, get lost. But I watched the whole thing, every minute of this case, and I couldn't keep quiet any longer. That little girl is mine, and I want her back. The judge nodded once. Please pronounce your name and your connection to the minor. She lifted her chin. My name is Melanie Renee Williams, and I am Ariella Mae Brown's biological mother. Sometimes the real mother doesn't show up in the hospital room. Sometimes she enters a courtroom years later, and her voice does not leave any uncertainty. Robin buried her face, shaking. She no longer even bothered to deny it. Melanie spun around to her, eyes blazing. I pleaded with you, she whispered. I pleaded with you not to take her. I phoned, I wrote, and you blocked my number. Robin spoke softly, you gave her to me. No, Melanie snapped. I gave her a chance. I didn't know the money was hush money. I thought you were family friends. I didn't know your husband was running a cover-up. The name Cody hung in the air like a knife. His eyes hardened against Robin. And in your instance, Miss Brown, that includes perjury, tampering with documents, and custodial interference. Robin nodded weakly, her face streaming with tears. Then a new voice intruded. Your Honor, Christine said quietly, standing. May I say something? The judge paused, then motioned for her to continue. Christine walked into the middle of the courtroom. I raised Ariella too, she started. Not as a mother but as a family. I taught her how to bake cookies. I took her to her first dance recital. I saw how much Robin loved her. But love doesn't wipe away the truth. She faced Melanie. If you want shared custody, I'll agree to that. Mary rose. So will I. Then Janelle. Me too. It was no longer a courtroom. It was a reckoning. A ring of women at last shattering the silence that had poisoned them for so long. The judge scanned the room, then looked down at his papers. This court will hear temporary dual guardianship, subject to a psychological evaluation of the child, and all parties involved. Robin let her head drop into her hands. Melanie cried softly. For an instant the mayhem seemed to finally quiet, until Christine suddenly gasped. Wait, there's more. All eyes swiveled. Christine was looking at her phone. I just received a text from the lawyer, she said. They dug up the complete LLC ownership records from 2016. And it's not Aurora. The judge furrowed his brow. What do you mean? Christine held up the phone, her hands trembling. There's a third name on the registration. Mary took a step forward, shocked. Who? Christina's voice broke. Brianna. The courtroom erupted into commotion. Gasps, whispers, incredulity. Because nobody was anticipating that name. Not even Robin. While the judge verified the papers, Christina's phone screen glared off her white face. This wasn't fraud anymore. This was betrayal. Your Honor, Christine stammered, Brianna's name appears as a legitimate co-owner of the LLC that channeled the funds used to purchase Ariella. Robin whirled around to her. That's impossible. She would never. Enough, the judge interrupted curtly. Clerk, verify this. The clerk nodded. Pulled straight from the state record system. Filed April 2016. 3 names. Cody Wynn Brown, Aurora Brown, and Brianna Leilani Brown. Robin's mouth opened, her words fading into a whisper. No. I never included her. Some falsehoods ruin others. But the worst ones, they ruin your own kids. Brianna wasn't in the courtroom, but her name was more present in that air than any voice. Christina's voice broke. She was 13 at the time. If her name is there, that means one of two things. Either you had her sign documents she didn't understand, or someone forged her signature.